the talk of the night, the talk of the town, the talk of everybody is the NBA draft lottery. So the question of the show is this NBA draft lottery just broken? Just like straight up like it does not work, right? So here's the thing, right? The the in theory, okay, this is what the purpose of the lottery is. The purpose of the lottery, in theory, is to prevent taking, right? Apparently, and I can't verify this, I wasn't alive. Apparently it was a large issue. Uh Teams just straight up not trying to get number one picks, trying to get top prospects. And it seems to me that the lottery has not changed that. For one, uh, I don't care what anybody says. What the Spurs were doing last year was tanking, right? Like when you're a bottom feeder team, I get that now they're trying to do the play-in to sort of incentivize teams to compete because hey, you get the play-in, you can still make the playoffs these last couple of sets of games. But the other thing about it is when it comes to that, like you know that your odds of winning a championship as a play-in team are pretty darn low. I mean, like the Heat managed to make it to the championship game last year, and they won one game, right? Like that was probably the best case scenario for any play-in team. Like we likely aren't going to see that kind of thing very often. And now we see that even if you're a play-in team, if you're the Atlanta Hawks, hey, it might actually even be better to still just lose because you got a chance to get the number one pick, right? Like, in what world, to me, does it make any sense that in theory, the Golden State Warriors could have ended up with the number one overall? In what world does that make any sense? I don't. I'm not even saying, and this is not my opinion necessarily, but I'm willing to grant. I'm not even saying we got to get rid of the draft lottery entirely. But the fact that, for one, my Detroit Pistons jump 4 spots despite having their worst record in franchise history. And the Hawks, who, again, I cannot stress this enough, in theory, could have won the NBA championship this year. In theory, right? Like they were in the plan, right? They get the pick, and the Pistons end up, you know, falling in the lottery more than any other team. Like, does that not seem like a system that is not operating in the way that it should? Right? Like the Pistons, I mean, if it is going to operate in the way that it should, I'm not even saying the Pistons should get number one, but they probably shouldn't get number five, right? Like, and if they're gonna get number five, the teams picking ahead of them, none of them should be playoff teams or play-in teams. They should all be teams that are at least comparable to the Pistons. I credit to the Hawks, I guess, because they're gonna get the number one pick in what I would consider a bad draft, and what everyone seems to consider a bad draft. But the other thing to consider here, specifically about the Pistons, and I'm famous, I suppose, maybe not to some people, but I'm famous for saying that the NBA lottery, or I'm not the first one to say this, of course, saying that the NBA draft lottery is rigged, and I stand by that. I still think that it is rigged, and this somewhat further solidifies it in a way. My reasoning here is, for one, the Pistons are a complete laughing, right? Like the Pistons are like the black sheep of the NBA. Nobody cares about them except maybe me and a few other people around Detroit and Michigan generally. Not even Joe Dumars likes the Pistons anymore. For good reason, actually, because we ran him out of town. But we needed to run him out. Neither here nor there. The Pistons are run by a horrible owner. Their GM is a moron. So the NBA is like, well, you know, you're not a well-run organization. We have greater trust in Houston or San Antonio. We even have greater trust in Atlanta. They made the Eastern Conference Finals a couple years. Lest we not forget. Not that they're in a good spot right now, but neither here nor there. So they're like, well, sucks, Detroit, but you're just not worth, giving the number one overall pick and potentially, obviously, like I said, this draft class according to everybody who's following it, says this is a weak draft class. You know, why take that risk that those people are all wrong? And I don't know, maybe Alexander Sarr is the next who's like an average center. Bam Adebayo. I guess he's not average, but you get it. Maybe the next Bam Adebayo is going to be in this draft. Wow, just really got me on the edge of my seat. The next, think of some other average. I was gonna say Trey Young, but that's kind of mean. I like Trey Young. The next, I'm like going through the list here. The next, D'Angelo Russell. It's like, okay, not like the worst. Like maybe Lakers fans might feel differently. The next, Mason Plumlee. The next Kentavious Caldwell. That's a good one. The next Kentavious Caldwell Pope is in this draft, basically. And again, not to get too far away from it, but I think basically this tells me like short of the Pistons losing every single game, like short of the Pistons actually going like 0-82. And even then, like, could you imagine like if a team obviously it's technically possible, but it's practically impossible. Like, if a team goes 0-82, I don't care that that team has to get the first one. Like, they have to, right? They have tanked their franchise value. There is no way in no world can you say, well, just because that's just like because we're trying to prevent tank. It's like that's not tank. That's like, are you even in the NBA? You're fielding a G League team at that point, which in a lot of ways the Pistons were, but that's neither here nor there. I suppose I could take a look at the mock draft. We did it briefly, but I gotta be honest with everybody. Okay, I don't know who half of these people are. Not that I really knew who a lot of the people were last year's draft. This is kind of a problem with the NBA draft in general at this point, is that it's kind of becoming a little bit of like the MLB or the NHL draft, where it's a lot of guys you never heard of out of G League or foreign or whatever. You know, like has anybody actually ever watched Zakari Rissaker play? Don't lie, okay? Don't give me. I watched some highlights on. No, 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 no. I mean, like you watched what does he play? The JL Borg. You watched them play basketball for 60 minutes. Don't tell me that. Nobody is. I refuse. If you watch those games, you need to get a hobby. You need to get outside. You need to get a job. I don't know. You need something. Go talk to a woman. I don't know. Do something other than watch foreign basketball. Do anything else. Read a book. Read Dante's Inferno. I don't know. I don't care. Anything. Anyhow, uh, outside of that, outside of the number one prospect being this Zakari Rissaker guy, you got Donovan Clingan. I watched him in the national championship in a couple of games on UConn. Yeah, I mean he's a 7'2", 265, 20-year-old. I think he could be really good. I mean 7'2", 265, and going on 21 years old, averaged a double double this past year with UConn, 20 points, 11 boards. Yeah, I mean, like, I think he could be a good play. Like, the thing is like, there's not the one play like last year where you had Victor, who just far and away the best player in the draft, right? With this, I could see a lot of these guys being decent guys. I don't. Maybe you see a guy come out of nowhere and be a superstar, but it's really hard to predict in general. I mean, when we're dealing with guys that are 18, 9, I mean, look at 19, 19, 20, 18, 19, 19, 19, 18, 19, 19. Like, we're dealing with guys who can't buy a beer. Okay? Like, it's so hard to predict at this point, and it's sort of a problem with the league in general that I have, which is that, guys are coming into the league and it's a men's game, and we're just sort of expecting them to take over. And for a lot of these, poverty teams, Pistons included, short of you landing that Victor Wembanyama or that Anthony Edwards or Anthony Davis or any of these other guys that every 3-4 years you get that kind of, no miss prospect, short of those guys making, like, those guys made immediate impact, right? But I don't know the Matas Buzelis out of the G League. I don't know that he's gonna make much of an impact in general, let alone immediately on the team. But either way, regardless of whether or not any of these players are any good, I'm sure some of them are going to be good. That it's basically impossible to have a draft with no good players. The point is, this NBA draft lottery. I mean, it's if if this is not a sign to the NBA or to fans that this system is just kind of ridiculous. Like I just, it seems to me that we're just overcomplicating things. It's like just do it like the NFL. Just I if a team wants to tank, whatever. That's on them, right? Like if they tank and it doesn't matter, they lose anyway. Well, whatever. It's like it sucks. Like pick better players. It's like I don't understand what, and the reason they're never going to change it ultimately is because it's a TV show. You know, like they could just do the lottery, off the air. They could just like, randomly say, "This is it. We've released the lottery. Here you go." And I mean, you want to talk about rigged? Like at that point, I don't know how people are gonna be able to take that seriously. But either way, they could, but they're not gonna because it's the drama of the lottery. It's free viewership for all the teams that didn't make the playoffs, right? Like if you're a Grizzlies fan or a Spurs fan, maybe you're not paying that much attention to the playoffs, but you're probably, I mean, if you're like me, I'm a Pistons fan. I definitely paid attention to the lottery, even though this class is not supposed to be that good. I just wanted to see where we picked, and I went a little insane. Go watch the clip. Doing very well. So, yeah. But with that, I'm just sort of talking in circles here. Lottery is just silly. Like, just get rid of it. It doesn't do the thing that it's supposed to do, which is stop tanking. It just doesn't. Literally. Hey there, what you just watched was actually a clip from a larger show that we do every Tuesday night. What are you doing Tuesday night? Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the like button so that you don't miss out on any more of our weekly shows every single Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope to see you there.